What would you do if the man who killed your father caught you studying in his penthouse at 3 a.m.? Kesha Thompson's knees pressed against cold marble as Marcus Wellington's footsteps echoed through darkness. The calculus textbook vanished under cleaning supplies, but too late. "Is that my financial analysis book?" Wellington's voice cut like glass. The billionaire flicked on lights, $5,000 robe catching the gleam. "You people actually think you can understand numbers?" He grabbed the book, tearing pages. "Know your place. You're fired. Security will escort you out immediately." Kesha lowered her head, playing the expected role. Her fingers found the old Nokia in her pocket, still recording. As she gathered supplies, her lips curved into that strange smile, inherited from a father who died under Wellington's collapsed scaffolding 5 years ago. Behind mahogany doors, Victoria Wellington pressed trembling palms against wood. The reckoning had begun, though her husband didn't know it yet. 5 years of waiting would end with 3 words that would destroy an empire. 6 months earlier, Kesha Thompson sat across from Wellington Capital's HR manager, watching rejection form before words were spoken. "We're looking for someone who's more of a cultural fit." The woman's eyes avoided contact. NYU diploma, Goldman Sachs recommendation, worthless paper between them. That night, Kesha applied for a different position. Janitor. 3rd shift. Hired within 24 hours. They always needed people willing to be invisible. "Baby, these people dangerous," her mother whispered between dialysis treatments. The machine hummed its mechanical rhythm. "Your daddy found out the hard way." Kesha held her mother's hand, careful of the IV line. $200,000 for a kidney transplant. Insurance called it pre-existing. Jerome's MIT acceptance letter sat on their kitchen table. $50,000 a year they didn't have. The truth Kesha never shared. Wellington had taught her, 7 years ago, guest lecturer at NYU. Financial warfare, how to destroy your competition. She'd sat front row, taking notes while he looked through her like glass. "Find the weakness in any system," he'd said. She'd written it down, memorized it. Now she'd use it. 3 months into cleaning Wellington Capital's floors, she discovered the first crack. Security footage retention, only 72 hours. Wellington's handwritten note in the margin of a discarded manual. Unnecessary expense, 50 per K saved annually. The irony tasted bitter. Victoria Wellington existed in prescription bottles, Xanax behind wine bottles, Ambien in jewelry boxes, Prozac in purses. And once, a phone call Kesha couldn't help overhearing. "I can't do this anymore. 25 years of looking the other way." The memorial wall lived in the janitor's supply closet. 17 photographs of workers who'd died on Wellington construction sites. Carlos had started it after his son Miguel's accident left him paralyzed. Each new cleaner added their ghosts. Kesha added her father's picture the first week. The evidence collection began simply. Wellington worked late Tuesdays and Thursdays, always with Macallan whiskey, always left his computer unlocked during bathroom breaks, 3 to 4 minutes. Enough time to insert a USB drive containing a keylogger program Jerome had written. Not sophisticated hacking, just recording keystrokes to capture passwords. "Mrs. Wellington asked about you," Carlos mentioned during break. "Wanted to know your name, your story." Kesha tensed. "What did you tell her?" "Nothing. But she already knew. Been watching her own cameras." Carlos lowered his voice. "Different system than his. She records everything in that house." The keylogger delivered results within days. Email access revealed 5-year-old correspondence that made Kesha's blood freeze. The anniversary party loomed 3 weeks away. 3 weeks to transform evidence into justice. 3 weeks to make the invisible visible. 3 weeks to prove that knowing your place sometimes meant burning down the whole building. Every night from 11 to 4, Kesha Thompson studied Marcus Wellington's patterns like a scientist observing specimens. Tuesday, Thursday, late nights. Macallan ritual at 11:30. Bathroom breaks predictably after the second glass, never longer than 4 minutes. The keylogger program had done its work. Password access revealed layers of corruption dating back decades. Shell companies, offshore accounts, bribed officials. Each document photographed with her Nokia, each file archived on encrypted drives hidden in her mother's apartment. "Security's getting tighter," Carlos warned during their 2 a.m. break. "Dennis has been asking questions about you, says you spend too long in the executive offices." "Let him ask." Kesha kept mopping, movements automatic after 6 months. "I'm just thorough." But Carlos was right to worry. The next night, Dennis appeared while she was in Wellington's office. 20 minutes for one office. His hand moved toward his radio. Kesha gripped the desk, letting her body sway slightly. "Sorry, blood sugar drops sometimes. Haven't eaten since yesterday morning." Dennis laughed, cruel and dismissive. "Maybe get a real job, then you could afford food." He spoke into his radio. "Just another hungry cleaner. Can barely stand up straight." After he left, Kesha found a protein bar on the cleaning cart. No note, but she recognized Victoria's perfume on the wrapper. The breakthrough came through Wellington's own arrogance. An email chain with Mayor Collins about the development deal included an attachment, video from Wellington's home office. He'd recorded himself explaining exactly how the bribes would flow, which officials would get what percentage, how the safety inspections would be handled. "For your private review only," he'd written. "Delete after viewing." But mayors don't delete evidence of their own corruption. They save it as insurance. 3 weeks became 2 weeks. Kesha needed someone who could break the story wide enough that Wellington couldn't contain it. The answer came at the public library at 2 in the morning. Sarah Rodriguez hunched over her laptop, surrounded by Freedom of Information requests and court documents. The reporter looked up as Kesha approached. "You're Stephen Thompson's daughter. I recognize you from the memorial service 5 years ago." Sarah's voice carried exhaustion and determination in equal measure. "I've been investigating Wellington since my father died. Roberto Rodriguez, lung cancer from cleaning chemicals. Wellington Industries made those chemicals, knowing they were carcinogenic." "Judge Rodriguez's daughter," Kesha said. "The one who refused to help with the investigation." "Couldn't help. Conflict of interest. But I found another way." Sarah turned her laptop screen. 6 months of investigation. Patterns of deaths. Bribed officials. But no smoking gun. No proof that Wellington knew people would die. Kesha made a choice. She showed Sarah one email. Just one. Wellington discussing the scaffolding, acknowledging it would collapse, ordering concrete poured anyway. Sarah's sharp intake of breath filled the silence. "This is it. This breaks everything open." She paused. "There's an FBI agent, Monica Thompson. She's been building a RICO case, but needs—" "Thompson?" The name hit like a physical blow. "Your father's cousin. Became an agent after he died. Said she wanted to fix the system from inside." Sarah pulled up a photograph. Monica in FBI gear, looking like Kesha would in 15 years. Harder, angrier, but with the same determined eyes. "She needs a confession," Sarah continued. "Wellington's own voice admitting he knew people would die. Documents can be disputed, recordings can't." "The anniversary party. 1 week away now." Kesha thought fast. "Wellington drinks heavily at celebrations, gets nostalgic about his empire building. If we could get him talking—" "You have access?" "Victoria requested me specifically for the party service. She's been helping. Leaving doors unlocked, deleting security footage when needed." Kesha pulled out a note she'd found in her supplies. "He confesses everything when he drinks the E05 Macallan. Make sure you're listening." V. She's building her own redemption, Sarah said softly. Or her own pyre? Maybe both. Kesha stood. 1 week. Can you have your FBI contact ready? She's been ready for 5 years. Just needed probable cause for a warrant. Sarah started typing rapidly. With a recorded confession and supporting documents, she can bring down the whole network. Wellington, the mayor, every corrupt official who took his money. 1 week to spring a trap, 5 years in the making. 1 week to turn invisible suffering into visible justice. 1 week to prove that empires built on blood always fall. They just need the right push from the right ghost. Her father would have been proud, not of the revenge, but of the patience. Not of the anger, but of the purpose. Not of the plan to destroy, but of the promise to build something better from the ashes. The anniversary party preparations consumed Wellington capital like a fever. 25th year of empire, 200 invited guests, a $2 billion deal to be signed over champagne and canapes. Kesha arrived for party setup to find the cleaning staff assembled in the lobby. Wellington himself stood before them, an unusual occurrence that set her nerves on edge. There have been security breaches, he announced. Someone has been accessing confidential files. Until we identify the source, all cleaning staff will undergo polygraph testing. Kesha's heart hammered. The keylogger, the photographs, the forwarded emails. But before panic could take hold, Carlos stepped forward. It was me, Mr. Wellington. Every head turned. The 60-year-old janitor pulled out an ancient flip phone. My grandson asked for help with his architecture project. I took pictures of old blueprints from the recycling bin. I'm sorry. I'll resign immediately. Wellington's face darkened with contempt. You thought you could steal from me? No, sir. Just wanted to help my grandson learn. He wants to build safe buildings. Carlos paused deliberately. Ones that don't collapse. The reference to the scaffolding wasn't subtle. Wellington's jaw tightened. Get out. All of you except... His eyes found Kesha. Thompson. Victoria specifically requested you for tomorrow night. As the others filed out, Carlos pressed his security keycard into Kesha's palm. Access to areas her card couldn't reach. A final gift from a fellow soldier in an invisible war. That night, Sarah called with urgency. Monica says the raid happened Sunday morning right after the party. She needs the confession by then, or Wellington's lawyers will bury everything in appeals for years. That's less than 48 hours away. Your mother doesn't have years. Neither does justice. Sarah paused. There's something else. I've been investigating the development deal. It's not just bribes. The land they're building on, it's contaminated. Toxic waste from old factories. Wellington knows. He's hiding the environmental reports. More graves, Kesha said quietly. Future ones this time. Hundreds of families would live there, kids playing on poisoned ground. Sarah's voice hardened. We're not just stopping a corrupt businessman, we're preventing a massacre. The next morning, Kesha found a package in her locker. Inside, a server's uniform for the party and a note in Victoria's handwriting. Library, behind Shakespeare, 3rd shelf. No signature needed. The library was a private room in the penthouse, rarely used. Behind the collected Shakespeare, Kesha found a small recording device and a floor plan of the penthouse. Red X marked the master bedroom. A time written in margins. 11:30 p.m. Victoria had thought of everything. Even the Macallan 05 was circled on the party's bar inventory with a note. His favorite, from the year of his first success. The night of the party, Kesha arrived to controlled chaos. Caterers, florists, musicians, all preparing to celebrate an empire built on corpses. She moved through the preparations like a ghost, invisible in her server's uniform. Thompson! Victoria Wellington appeared beside her, voice steady, despite the tremor in her hands. You'll be serving drinks in the private study after dinner. My husband likes to show off his victories to special guests after enough whiskey." Their eyes met for the first time. Victoria looked like she'd aged a decade in the past year, but something in her gaze had hardened into purpose. 25 years I've been complicit," she said quietly. "Tonight that ends. Whatever happens, don't waste this chance." "Why now?" Kesha had to ask. "Why not years ago?" "Because I was a coward. Because I thought my comfort was worth more than their lives." Victoria's voice broke slightly. "Because it took seeing you, seeing what he did to your father, to remember my own daughter. Julia died in the Branson collapse 8 years ago. My first husband's child. Wellington never even knew her name." The revelation landed like a physical blow. "I'm sorry." "Don't be sorry. Be ready." Victoria straightened her spine. "He'll be drunk by 11. I'll make sure of it. The recorder will be in the bedroom safe. Combination is your father's death date. Whatever he says, let him finish. Men like him hang themselves with their own words if you give them enough rope." As guests began arriving, Kesha watched Wellington work the room. Mayor Collins, Senator Hayes, Judge Morton, not Patricia Kim, who had refused his money. The powerful celebrating their power, unaware that their empire's foundation had already cracked. Sarah was positioned outside with her photographer. Monica Thompson waited 3 blocks away with a full FBI team. The trap was set. All they needed was Wellington's confession. The clock moved toward 11. Toward justice. Toward the moment when the invisible would finally be seen. Kesha touched her father's picture in her pocket. "Almost there, Dad," she whispered. "Almost there." The party glittered with ill-gotten wealth. Crystal chandeliers threw light across marble floors where Keisha now walked as a server, tray balanced, watching Victoria guide her husband through his triumph like a conductor directing a funeral march. "Darling, you must tell the senator about our first big success." Victoria cooed, pressing the special Macallan into Wellington's hands. "You know how you love that story." By 10:30, Wellington was 3 drinks deep, his control loosening. By 11, Victoria had maneuvered him away from the crowd. "Let's have a private toast. Just us. Like the old days." Kesha waited in the service corridor, watching them enter the master bedroom. She counted to 60, then slipped into the walk-in closet, recorder ready. Through the door crack, she could see Wellington collapse into his leather chair, Victoria pouring another generous measure. 25 years, he slurred slightly. Quarter-century of building what others said was impossible. Built on what foundation? Victoria's voice remained steady. On understanding what others refuse to accept. That progress demands sacrifice. He drained his glass. "Remember that first project? The Riverside Complex. With the scaffolding problem?" Wellington laughed, ugly and sharp. "Problem? It was an opportunity. That foreman, Thompson, kept whining about safety protocols. Would have delayed everything 6 months. Cost millions." Kesha's hand trembled on the recorder. "Keep going," she willed him. "Keep talking." So I made a decision. 50,000 to Inspector Hayes, and suddenly the scaffolding was safe. When it collapsed, everyone blamed the workers. Thompson died thinking it was his fault. Wellington poured another drink. The beautiful irony. His daughter applied to work here 7 years later, sat in my NYU class like she belonged, same stubborn jaw, same defiant eyes. Victoria's breath caught. "The cleaner is Thompson's daughter. Of course she is." Wellington's voice turned venomous. "That's why I was so harsh. These people need to learn their place. Her father didn't, and look what happened. When I caught her studying, trying to rise above her station, I had to put her down. It's natural order." "You murdered her father." "I made a business decision. 3 lives for a $2 billion company. I'd make that trade again tomorrow." He raised his glass in mock toast. "To Thompson and the others, their deaths built this empire." "How many others?" 17 over the years, according to that pathetic memorial wall the cleaners keep. They think I don't know about it." Wellington laughed. "Cost of progress. You cut safety by 40%, you lose some workers, but you gain millions in profit. Simple mathematics." "And you feel nothing?" "I feel successful. I feel powerful. I feel like a man who understood what this country really rewards, not kindness or safety or fairness, but profit. Pure, simple profit." He stood unsteadily. "Thompson's daughter can clean my floors forever. She'll never be more than what she was born to be. Some people are meant to serve. It's genetics." Victoria stood slowly. "You're wrong about genetics, Mark. Evil isn't inherited. It's chosen." She walked to the door. "And so is justice." The door opened. FBI agents flooded in, Monica Thompson leading them with her badge held high. "Marcus Wellington, you're under arrest for conspiracy to commit murder, racketeering, bribery." Wellington's face transformed from drunk confidence to perfect horror. "Victoria, what have you done?" "What I should have done 25 years ago." She opened the safe, pulling out drives and documents. "Every confession, every bribe, every death you celebrated, all recorded, all preserved." Kesha stepped from the closet, recorder in hand. Wellington's eyes found her, recognition and understanding colliding. "My student," he whispered. "Your victim's daughter." Kesha kept her voice level. "You taught me to find weakness in any system. Your weakness was believing we'd stay invisible forever." As they led him away, Wellington turned back once. "You destroyed everything." "No." Kesha replied. "You destroyed everything. We just made sure everyone could see it." By 7 a.m., the story broke across every platform. Sarah's exclusive ran with the headline, "The Cleaner Who Brought Down an Empire." The recorded confession went viral within hours. Justice for Thompson's trending worldwide. FBI raids swept across the city. Mayor Collins at breakfast, Senator Hayes on his morning jog, Judge Morton in his chambers. An empire built over 25 years crumbled in 25 minutes. And in a hospital room across the city, Kesha's mother watched the news through tears of relief. Justice had finally come home. The federal interview room smelled of disinfectant and defeat. Marcus Wellington sat handcuffed to the metal table, orange jumpsuit hanging loose on his diminished frame. 2 days in custody had stripped away decades of carefully constructed power. "You requested this meeting," Monica Thompson said, opening the door for Kesha. 5 minutes." Kesha sat across from the man who'd murdered her father. Up close, without his wealth as armor, Wellington looked ordinary. Small. Human. "I need to understand," he said, voice hoarse. "How did you do it?" "You taught me how." Kesha kept her tone neutral. "NYU. Find the weakness in any system. Your weakness was believing people like me couldn't learn. I taught business strategy, not... You taught me that power comes from information, that systems have flaws, that patience beats impulse." She leaned forward. "You just never imagined your lessons would be used against you. You manipulated my wife. Your wife came to me. 25 years of watching you celebrate murders finally broke her." Kesha pulled out a photograph. "Did you even know she had a daughter who died in one of your buildings?" Wellington's mouth opened. Nothing came out. "Julia Morrison, 17. Crushed in the Branson Tower collapse. Another 40% safety cut. Your own stepdaughter, and you never even knew her name." She never said. Because you never asked. Never saw her as real. Just like my father. Just like every worker you killed for profit margins." Kesha stood. "That's your real weakness, Mr. Wellington. You never saw us as human, so you never saw us coming. What do you want? Desperation cracked his voice. I have money hidden. Connections. We don't want your money. Monica Thompson entered, badge prominent. We want justice. I can give you names. Other companies doing the same thing. Bigger fish than me. Monica smiled coldly. Your wife already gave us everything. 25 years of recordings. Every crime, every conspirator, every cent of blood money tracked and traced. Wellington turned back to Kesha. You've destroyed hundreds of jobs. My employees will be hired by ethical companies. Victoria's using the seized assets to ensure they're taken care of. Kesha moved toward the door. Your empire is becoming a foundation for something better. Thompson Industries. We're buying your facilities, retrofitting them with proper safety standards, hiring from the communities you devastated. Thompson Industries? My mother's kidney came through. My brother graduated MIT with honors. Sarah Rodriguez won her Pulitzer. Victoria found redemption. Even Carlos's son is walking again thanks to experimental surgery the Second Chances Foundation funded. Kesha paused at the door. Everyone you tried to crush is rising. While you rot in a cell, we're building the future you tried to deny us. This isn't justice, Wellington spat. This is revenge. No. Revenge would be letting you die like my father did. Afraid. In pain. Believing it was his fault. Kesha's voice stayed calm. Justice is making sure you live knowing exactly what you did and what you lost. 35 years to think about every life you stole for money. Outside, Victoria waited on a bench. She looked younger somehow, grief's weight finally lifting. Thank you, Victoria said simply, for giving me the courage. You always had it. You just needed someone to remind you. Kesha sat beside her. What will you do now? Run the Second Chances Foundation. Make sure every family Wellington hurt gets help. Victoria handed her an envelope. The FBI reward. 15 million. You earned it. Kesha opened it, then handed it back. 2 million for my family's immediate needs. The rest goes to the foundation. We're not doing this for money. Then why? For 25 years, I was complicit in murder. I stayed silent while innocent people died. No verdict can erase that guilt. She paused. I'm liquidating all Wellington assets to create the Second Chances Foundation. 200 million for victims' families, safety reforms, and worker protections. In the crowd, Carlos wiped tears. His son Miguel stood beside him. New experimental surgery had restored partial mobility. We won, mijo. They finally paid. 3 weeks later, Kesha returned to NYU as a guest lecturer. The same hall where Wellington had taught her now overflowed with workers, students, activists, all wanting to hear from the cleaner who brought down an empire. Marcus Wellington taught me that every system has a weakness. He was right, but he misidentified which system was weak. She looked across the eager faces. He thought workers were the weakness. He never understood we were the foundation. When a foundation shifts, everything above it falls. She talked about her father, about the memorial wall that became evidence, about Carlos risking everything, about Sarah spending her savings, about Victoria choosing justice over comfort, about Monica Thompson dedicating her career to fixing a broken system. Real power doesn't come from money or position. It comes from solidarity, from refusing to remain invisible, from believing change is possible even when the system seems insurmountable. A young woman raised her hand. But what if we don't have evidence? What if they're too careful? Then you become more careful. Learn their language, their systems, their weaknesses. Find allies in unexpected places. Kesha smiled. Remember, Every CEO needs someone to clean their office. Every politician needs someone to serve their food. Every judge needs someone to maintain their chambers. We see everything. We just need to decide when to speak. Dean Morrison approached after the lecture. Ms. Thompson, we'd like to offer you a full-time position. Professor of Forensic Accounting, specializing in corporate crime. 1 class per semester. Pro bono. For students who can't afford tuition. She met his eyes. The rest of my time goes to the Invisible Army. Within a year, the Invisible Army had chapters in 12 cities. Service workers trained in documentation, legal rights, and safe reporting. 15 more corporations faced investigation. The Thompson Act passed Congress, making CEOs criminally liable for worker deaths from negligence. At the first national conference, 500 workers filled the hall. Janitors, security guards, food service workers, all learning their rights, their power, their worth. Every building has 2 architects, Kesha told them. The one who designs it and the one who maintains it. We see the cracks. We know the secrets. We hold the real power. We just forgot how to use it. The memorial wall had grown. 3,000 names from across the country. But now each name had a story, a family, a demand for justice. The invisible were becoming visible. In federal prison, Wellington taught accounting to fellow inmates, court-mandated service. Other prisoners knew his story, the billionaire brought down by a cleaner. Some mocked him, most ignored him, all avoided him. He'd written 12 letters to Kesha, all returned unopened. He'd written his daughter once. She'd changed her name, moved abroad, started fresh. He had 34 years left to contemplate how wrong he'd been about everything. About power, about worth, about place. The cleaners weren't beneath him. They were the ground he'd stood on. And when they moved, he'd discovered what every empire builder eventually learns. You can't build lasting power on a foundation of bones. 1 year later, the Invisible Army's second national conference filled Madison Square Garden. 5,000 workers from every industry, every state, every background. The movement had grown beyond anything Kesha had imagined. When we started, she told the crowd, we were 17 pictures on a closet wall. Today, we're a force that makes boardrooms tremble. The statistics spoke volumes. 27 corporations under investigation. 3 billion recovered in wage theft. 40 executives facing criminal charges. Workplace deaths down 60% where the Army had chapters. Carlos had become National Director of Safety Training. His son Miguel, walking with assisted technology, had just passed the bar exam. The Invisible Army's first staff attorney. Victoria Morrison sat in the front row, her Second Chances Foundation having distributed $300 million to victims' families. But we're not done, Kesha continued. Every day, workers die for someone else's profit. Every day, people are told to know their place. Today, we say, we know our place. It's wherever justice needs us. Sarah Rodriguez's book had spent 8 months at #1. The Netflix documentary had won 3 Emmys. Every dollar she earned funded journalism scholarships for first-generation college students. In federal prison, Marcus Wellington existed rather than lived. His wealth gone, his family estranged, his legacy reduced to a cautionary tale. He taught basic accounting to inmates who mostly wanted to learn how to avoid getting caught. He'd aged 15 years in 2. The Thompson Act had passed with bipartisan support after a senator's nephew died in a preventable accident. CEOs could now face murder charges for willful negligence. Safety budgets had mysteriously increased nationwide. Jerome Thompson's company, SafeBuilt, had revolutionized affordable safety equipment. His innovations cost pennies to implement, but saved lives daily. MIT had created the Thompson Fellowship in his honor, full rides for 10 students annually from working-class families. The revolution isn't coming, Kesha told the conference. It's here. It's us. Every time we document a violation, every time we report a crime, every time we refuse to be invisible." She held up the original memorial wall photo, 17 faces including her father's. "They died believing things couldn't change. We live proving they can." The conference ended with a moment of silence for workers lost, then erupted in determination for workers still fighting. The invisible had become undeniable. Later, visiting her father's grave, Kesha left a simple note. "We did it, Dad. Your death meant something. The foundation you laid finally supported something beautiful." The headstone read, "Stephen Thompson, husband, father, foundation." And across America, in break rooms and supply closets, workers looked at their memorial walls with new eyes, not just remembering the dead, but organizing the living. The invisible army was watching, recording, waiting, ready to bring down the next empire built on bones, because now they knew the truth. Every Wellington had a Thompson somewhere in his building, and every Thompson had learned the most dangerous lesson of all. They deserved better, and they knew how to get it.